Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to be taking this shot right here and turning it into this shot right here. As a filmmaker, the best time for us to shoot outdoors is during sunrise and sunset. This is mainly because with the sun lower in the horizon, it is passing through a lot more of the Earth's atmosphere, and therefore the light is more diffused, softer looking, but also it has a much more appealing color. It has this golden light to it that we as filmmakers and photographers, we love to capture. But the main thing that we love about it is the fact that it diffuses the light because it's passing through this atmosphere at a horizontal level. But unfortunately, a lot of times we have to shoot during midday. Now, midday is probably the worst time of day that you can go outside and film a subject. And the reason why that this is such a terrible time of day to film is because the sun is right overhead and is shining straight down on our subject. And the sun at this time of day is just a hard source of light. It's very, very powerful, and it's not diffused by much of anything at all. So what this does is this causes a lot of shadows on our subject's face, and these shadows are not very pleasing to the eye. A lot of times we call these raccoon eyes because you'll see shadows underneath their eyes, cause them to look like a raccoon. But you also see shadows under the nose, under the chin, and other places on the face. So the only way to really defeat this is by modifying the sun's light. And one way of doing this is what I did in this example is I took a big piece of diffusion and put it between my subject and the sun. And by doing this, you're taking this spotty source of light and you're turning it into a big source of light right before it touches the face of your subject. And the larger the source, the softer the light is that comes off of it because it's much bigger. And so all that I did for this shot is I had a 6x6 piece of diffusion that I put on these C-stands with these clamps right here, and they just clamp onto the PVC pipe or onto your railing of your frame, and they just clamp down and they can go inside the knuckle of your C-stand. And these knuckles allow the diffusion to rotate whichever direction that you want. And so for this example, because the sun was directly overhead, I had the piece of diffusion pretty much laying flat. And I lifted it up into the air with the C-stand. So it's important while you're doing this to have sandbags on your C-stands. This is important because with a big piece of diffusion, it's basically turning into a parachute when the wind blows. And if you want your stands to stay upright, you need to have sandbags. Now, the sandbags that I have, I just bought empty ones off Amazon. And then I went to the hardware store and bought some play sand and filled those up. And then they work perfectly fine. You put them on the leg of the C-stand and your C-stand stays upright. And so I lifted this piece of diffusion up in the air and I had it laying flat. And basically it took that sunlight and it made it into this large source of light. And as you can see from the shot, it has eliminated those shadows that you get. And so this is just an easy way of making midday sun look a little bit more pleasing to the eye and pleasing onto your subject. Now let's say that you don't have this piece of diffusion. Now this piece of diffusion that I have is actually just a piece of bleach muslin that I bought from Joann Fabrics, and it works perfectly fine. But let's say you don't have that. You can use a bed sheet and you can put that on a C-stand or on whatever frame that you want to drape it over. If you don't have a bed sheet, you can then use a shower curtain that would have a similar effect. One of the frosted shower curtains that you can get for under $10 at Walmart or any other store. If you don't have that, another good thing is the 5-in-1 diffusion things. Those in the center, they always have a piece of diffusion. Those work great. So there are many different options to diffuse the sunlight and allow for a much more pleasing look on your subject. If you wanted to take this a step farther, you could add a negative fill and get a little bit more shadow. You can shoot onto the shadow side of the face and use an upstage lighting. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this and shape the sunlight to get the look that you're going for. But anytime that you're shooting in midday, always throw up a piece of diffusion between your subject and the sun and just soften that light source as much as you possibly can. And so let's look at these shots one more time, and then we'll look at a diagram as well. So if we look at this diagram, you can see where I have this piece of diffusion, how I have it. It's literally just, it's the sun, diffusion, subject. And that's all that I did for this shot, and it made a huge improvement on the lighting of my subject's face. And so with that will wrap this episode up. As always, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button and hit that like button as well. In the comments, if you have any questions, let me know and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Also, if you're still around and if you're still watching this, tell me what your favorite cheese is in the comments section. It's just an easy way for us to get to know each other, these fun little questions. So leave that in the comments as well. Thank you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.